Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to my second stream of the week, which I think is going to be a weekly thing. I try to do two streams, so one focusing on painting and another will be focusing on figure drawing. So today is a figure drawing live stream where essentially I'm just going to be doing some quick sketches just to get my eye moving and to get my hand-eye coordination, warm up essentially, and then I'm going to move on to a longer piece, which I hope you'll be able to join for and to follow along with me. So for the first part of the of drawing the figure of this live stream, I'm just going to be using my iPad to get just to do a couple of quick gestural drawings, a couple of studies, and then I'll probably do that for about 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes, and then I'll move on and do a longer half an hour pose. So in the bottom right corner, you'll see my references. I'm using the line of action references, which again are pretty good. All of these are going to be closed figures, so there won't be any nudity involved. And again, they're just there. I'm not going to time them. I'm just going to be using these to essentially just to warm up. So to start with, I've created my canvas. I like to work with some sort of background. So I'm just going to add a kind of textured background that looks a little bit like paper. The reason I'm using an iPad for this is that I don't want to be too precious about my sketchbooks. I just want to do some really rough sketches on here, so I thought an iPad would be quite a good option for it. I'm going to use a digital charcoal pencil which I created. So these are just using my own Procreate brushes, which I really enjoy using. I photographed my conventional art supplies, and then I created some brushes out of those. Okay, so let's get going. So when I approach a figure, I always, 9 times out of 10, I just start with the head. Once I put the large mass of the head, I move on to get the angle of the neck, and then the shoulders. Once the shoulders are in place, I'll look for the spine, and then for the hips, and then I try to get the angle of the hips. I always look at the angle, the relationship between the hips and the shoulders, because that creates interest. So I can see that in this case the hip is sort of pointing that way and the shoulders are going the other direction. So here I've got already some points of interest where I've got essentially mirror images in my figure. Then I put in the general direction of the leg, and then the tibia and the foot. Once those are done, I tend to go for the arms. In this case, I'll go for the weight-bearing arm first. So put in the angle there, angle there. There we are. So there's the kind of the rough gesture of this pose. It looks very much like a stick figure at this stage. But the idea of these is just to get the movement right, and I'm just going to correct this arm. think it's a little bit more straight there. Okay, once that's in place, I start to refine things a little bit. So I'm putting some meat on these bones, both literally and figuratively speaking. I'm thinking about the chest cavity here. So as you can see, I focus on the large masses first. So I'm focusing on head, the chest, the back, pelvis, the thigh, I also take this as an opportunity to start thinking about the spatial relationships of these objects. So whether they are closer to me, whether they're further away to me. It's a great skill because to master, because it's it creates realism in our drawings. And I think a live drawing class is probably the best place to work on these skills, because in a photograph it's very difficult to see what's in front of us, what's behind us, or what's further away from us. Sometimes I like to add these sort of indications of form, and that gives me an idea of how the body is positioned in three-dimensional space. So we can, ultimately these are just cylinders, that's all the body is just different shapes of cylinders. And our job is to take those cylinders and make something a little bit more believable out of them. So I think, there we go. So just so you can see, I made a correction there because I've noticed that this distance is smaller, is shorter in the pose itself versus what I've drawn. Can add the stool so that it looks like this person is sitting. Okay, now I can start thinking about adding some value onto this as well. So try to use value to give us so the value will follow the form. So the form is the 3D structure, and the value is the shade of this 3D structure. But the shade always lies down, it always follows the form itself. To make sure that this is in front of our arm, and then this here is also towards us. I like bony areas, so knees, elbows. I think they create natural points of interest in the human body, but also they create anchor points. So I can always check my proportions with respect to to our bony masses. So, yeah, that looks okay for now. I can do another one. So I'll just create a new layer. I'll make that one disappear. And let's see if there are any other interesting poses that we can do. Nope. Oh. I'm just looking for a reasonable pose that I can work on. I don't know exactly what's coming next. These are just random pictures. Let's go for this one. I'm not sure if you're able to see it. Let me try and refresh it. There we go. Okay, start with the head. Now the neck is there somewhere, but I still apply the same principles. There's the shoulder. Then the spine is going there. I can put the chest here, and then the leg, the thigh going this way, the other thigh coming towards us, and then the leg going down here. So again, very gestural, just quite a loose representation of what's going on here. Nothing. You can see I'm just drawing with. I hold my pencil like this even when I'm at this stage. Okay, so now let's refine it. So you'll notice that my kind of general style is that I draw lots of these curvy lines, and that's because, in my opinion, I don't think there are straight lines in the human body. I think the human body is very much made up of these S-curves, and that's how I try and capture that. So we can start adding some value into this. Now, this is a fairly poorly lit photograph, I think. It's difficult to see which areas, where are the areas of light and dark. But we try. And now we can start really thinking about bringing some stuff to the foreground. And sending some stuff back to the background. All right, so that's that. Let's do one more and then we can shift to a longer pose. Let's do this one. New layer. Say see you later to that one. And let's go. So once again, head, neck, shoulders, spine somewhere in there, rib cage, angle of the pelvis, leg coming towards us, leg moving away from us, arm coming towards us, and then an arm down now. So there's the gesture, that's the stick figure, and we can refine things. Now you can see here, so what I've done is you can see that the chest is going that way and then the pelvis is going this way. So that already creates drama. We have this kind of relationship between our parts. The same thing with shoulders. So essentially we've got this shoulder line, chest, pelvis, and that creates, and that's the dynamic nature. That's where the sense of movement comes in. Are these relationships between the lines of the body. That's where the drama comes in. And if you look at sort of the great masters of the Renaissance, they have certainly known that and seen that, and they've accentuated that in their works. So what's interesting again about the figure is that, as I mentioned before, it's all just essentially just cylinders. So cylinders that are stacked on one another. So for example, if we look at this leg, we can simplify this leg. We've got a kind of a cylinder like this. And it sits on top of a cylinder like that. And there's our stick. There's our leg. So if we just keep thinking about the body in this way, it becomes a lot easier, I think, because then we can start thinking about the form. It becomes more believable. So I'm not drawing an outline of the body. I'm drawing the 3D cylinder that's being curved by the muscles. And you can see here the light's coming from here. So that's our light source, which means this top of the cylinder is lighter, this bottom side of the cylinder is darker. And we can do the same thing with our leg. It is, after all, the same cylinder. It's just a meaty cylinder that follows a slightly different configuration, but the principles of it are the same. And this is seen here as well. So this leg that's coming towards us really is just another cylinder, like that. And again, we can think about the light, and this area is in the dark. So this is our construction for the specific figure. Great, so I think I am sufficiently warmed up. We can see all the, there we are, all of our fingers in one place. So I think I'm ready to go and to do something a little bit more traditional. So for that, let me just change my reference. Here we are. So this is what I'm going to be drawing. For this drawing, I've chosen to work on a toned paper. So this is a sketchbook, toned tan sketch paper by Strathmore. It's a relatively recent purchase for me. I haven't explored it in too many details, but essentially what it allows me to do is work with three types of values. I have my darks, I've got my midtones, which is the paper itself, the color of the paper, and then I have my lights, which I use a kind of a white chalk. So I think it just makes it a little bit more fun. Instead of it being a black and white drawing, I can start drawing in with three values. So for this drawing, I'm going to be using three types of pencils. So I've got my Blackwing. This is Blackwing matte pencil, which I enjoy using for that first gestural drawing. It's a fairly, well, I think it's actually the softest and the darkest pencil that Blackwing make. So I'm going to be using that. I then am going to be using dark charcoal pencil, and I'm going to be using a white chalky pencil. So let's make sure that when I start this drawing, you'll be able to see the full extent. So I'll start from here, I'll end up here, down here somewhere. So hopefully you'll be able to see it as I sketch. So again, let's start with the head, the neck, the shoulders, and then the bend of the spine. I think the pelvis is going to sit somewhere here, and then the legs are going over there. Actually, I'm going to bring this figure down. So it's not, the composition is not quite right. So let's bring it down here. So our head, neck, shoulders, spine, pelvis, knees are down here somewhere, then legs are going to go down here. We've got our arm, our forearm here, fingers, and then wrist, like that. Okay, can do some refining. So when I sketch this, I always, in the back of my mind, I always use the head as the measurement, as a measuring unit. So if I know that the head is generally right, then everything is measured against that. So there's the head. The width of the shoulders is actually about the same width as the head. So the shoulder is going to come in here, and there's the hairline. It's going to be here. So this is where the bottom of the tip of the shoulder is going to be. And then the elbow is going to be here. This segment is about maybe a little bit longer than the head, but again, it should be relatively similar size. This shoulder here, the tip of that shoulder is somewhere there, and then our wrist, fingers. Instead of drawing every finger, I just draw, for now, I'm just drawing an indication of how these fingers are distributed. And then we have our forearm going back there. And then we've got this drapery going down the side. Now this distance here is, once again, it's about the size of the head. So that's why, this is why I choose to draw it. Thinking about my cylinders, that's the arm. There's a bend there. And the form of the forearm. And again, that's where the hand is going to be. And then here, I'm actually looking at this negative space. So to get this angle right, I am looking at the negative space between the forearm and the cloth. So this is what I'm drawing. So in fact, this should be a bit like that. It's a more acute angle. Then this negative space becomes there. Now we have to imagine the leg is here somewhere, and I can see I can follow the drapery, the bends of the drapery, to help me figure out where the leg is. Again, the problem with drawing a clothed figure is that you have to know the anatomy underneath well in order to make it look believable, and that's why I always struggle with a clothed figure. Okay, so now let's see, we've got our chin going down here. Okay. So let's just do a quick check of our proportions. So there's the neck, and the fingers there. Hair goes somewhere here, goes around, comes around. Hairline, ears about here. Eyes going to be here somewhere. Mouth is going to be down here, I think. So I think I draw my facial features too small. So let's try again. So the eyebrows are going to be here. Eyes. Nose lines up with the bottom of the earlobe. If I go down here like that. The mouth is going to be here. And the chin is going to be somewhere down here. That's a little bit more believable, I think, proportion-wise. Although I think the nose is not right. I need to be a little higher. The mouth is a little bit higher as well. Yeah, that's probably a little bit more believable. Okay, so I think that's generally speaking, I think that's okay. Which means we can start moving into the details of this pose. Drawing this, focusing on this negative shape here, this little triangle. And that gives me the bend of the hip. So I found this picture on Pinterest somewhere. So it's available as a reference. Okay. Right, so let's start adding a little bit of value into this and refining the figure. So let's put our darkest dark on, which is the hair. I'll switch to my charcoal pencil. I always struggle with this turn of the head. I don't know why. I always do. I find it a challenging one. think this ear is way too far out. It should be here somewhere. And I think her jaw is a little bit wrong as well. Now I'm not going to draw every little finger. I'm just going to indicate the negative spaces where the fingers might be. Not quite sure what's going on with this hand. I think this wrist is completely wrong. So let's go back to the basics. Finger, wrist, angle there, goes like that. And I think that drapering goes like that. Is that right? Not quite. No. All right. So I want to lose this edge here because it's in the light, but also it's the furthest away from us. So I want to lose it. Gives the viewer's brain something to do. So these folds are following the form of the leg. Okay, now we can start thinking about highlights. So the light's clearly coming from the two sources of light, I think. One's coming from here, and the other's coming sort of from here, I believe, because we've got this side has got light, it's catching light, and then there as well. But also this side is catching light, and this bit here. Being quite coarse with my chalk. Okay, so there's the figure. Let's make sure we got everything we wanted. I think the horizon is here somewhere, so not the horizon, but the sort of the wall of this, somewhere there. Good. I think that's, let's just maybe do some final touches on the hair. Okay, so, well, it's okay. Let's have a think about what's gone well, what hasn't gone so well. I still struggle with faces and proportions of faces when I draw the figure. I still think the face is not right. I think this hand, obviously, I fibbed it a little bit. Generally speaking, I think the lines are reasonable. I've lost a couple of edges, which to me make sense. They are further away from us, the light's catching them, so they're sort of bending back. And I think generally the pose is there. So there's not much to say other than that. So it was a quick, I don't know how, maybe 20-30 minute sketch. Let's date it and call it a day. Thanks very much for joining. Take care.